Hey, I'm Jeans. I just qualified for ELM in Belgium with this deck. I won an event in Bath, run by Bath TCG and Get Your Deck Out, and I'm going to be playing a constructed league with it. All right, first opponent. We get to be on the draw. This hand, honestly, is really, really close. I think if I had one more piece of action, I would be down to keep this. Unfortunately, even though we have the Glaring Fleshraker K command, Eye of Ugin combo, which is really, really powerful, plus the Eldrazi Temple, I think three colored sources is not where we want to be. So I'm actually going to mulligan this hand. Unfortunately, I would love to keep that hand. This hand is a lot worse. I'm going to mulligan. And this hand will have to do. There we go. I'm going to keep. Get rid of an Eldrazi Linebreaker, just because we don't have the second source. As with Mulliganed, usually I don't like keeping Chalice of the Void, or keeping hands that revolve around Chalice of the Void on the draw. However, because we've mulliganed twice and my opponent kept a 7, I'm going to kind of go in on Chalice winning us the game. So I'm going to bottom the Kozilek's command, which is usually something I wouldn't do. That card is unbelievably good, but hopefully Chalice into Fleshraker into K command for a lot will be good. Our opponent is a Flooded Strand gamer, which is usually a pretty good sign for our Chalice of the Void, and they ponder, even better. So hopefully they don't have some kind of permission. Even if they do, it's going to be a, it's probably going to be a Force of Will, which is pretty good. Well, that's nice, isn't it? That's very, very, very nice. So let's Chalice on 1, see if that resolves. It does. That's either a very, very good sign or a very, very, very bad sign. Either a good sign because it means we've locked our opponent out of playing the game, or a very, very bad sign because it means our opponent has other stuff that they can do. Trying to think whether I want to run out the Fleshraker. It lets us have a bigger Kozilek's command next turn. However, I think because we have Chalice of the Void on 1, our opponent played a Ponder deck and they didn't have a 2-drop, I am going to just try and Wasteland our opponent, and there's a decent chance that stops them playing the game. They've got a Volk, which means they're probably on Delver. Basic Mountain. I don't know if Delver plays Basic Mountain. They might do. Not up to date with what Delver plays. Okay, so let's just try developing an Eye of Ugin, getting a Fleshraker in play, and then next turn let's have a huge Kozilek's command and try and do something nuts with that. Could have, I suppose, made our Fleshraker uncounterable, but then we're not developing the Kozilek's command, which I think is probably okay. Yeah, show and tell. All right. I feel pretty good about our decision to Wasteland in that case. And our opponent puts into play Sneak Attack. Okay. Oh my god. Oh, there it is. Okay, so I'm gonna name Eldrazi with this. Just trying to think whether I want to Kozilek's command for 2 before doing the Wastescape Battlemage. Maybe I just want to Kozilek's command next turn, because this means they can't just counter the Kozilek's command. Although if they do force the Kozilek's command, it means they have 0 cards left in hand. Yeah. Okay, so they would need to have Force Atraxa, target player creates X, ruffles. They would need to have Force Atraxa and then top deck another big un, which I think is okay. Okay, very, very glad we got rid of these cards. I did not want to see more land. And let's get rid of their Sneak Attack. Now they could of course have another Show and Tell, a land plus Sneak Attack. All of these would be pretty good ways of our opponent getting into the game. I am hoping, however, that they just have like a bunch of Ponders and Brainstorms and other such cards. Another land, definitely not what we want. I am actually playing a slightly different list from what I qualified for ELM with. I'm playing Abundant Countryside, this new Lorwyn Eclipse commander card. For 6 mana, you can make a 1/1 shapeshifter. I think it's strictly an upgrade on the courtyard, but I don't really foresee myself activating it that much. Let's develop another Cavern of Souls, I guess. So we could 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Can't do that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If we had 1 more mana, we could activate Eye of Ugin. Maybe we'll do that next turn. Just put some incredible amount of pressure into play. Although I don't know, we'll see what we draw. Okay, I imagine this is going to be another sneak attack put into play here, just with the speed that my opponent cracked that fetch, and we're really hoping for another Wastescape Battlemage. Thought-Knot Seer also works. All right, well, let's see what our opponent's working with. Awesome. So what's the text on? You may put a creature card back for haste. Sacrifice the creature at the beginning of the next end step. So I think I'm actually going to take Atraxa. Yeah, I definitely take Atraxa, which means they get 1 hit with Archon of Cruelty. Does that just kill us? When a species creature hits the battlefield, target opponent sacrifices a creature or planeswalker of their choice, discards a card and loses 3 life. You draw a card and gain 3 life. Okay, so that's gonna be pretty good, to be honest with you. But we're not actually dead, and maybe our opponent could just draw 2 Ponders. That would be really cool. So let's sacrifice an Eldrazi spawn, discard an Eye of Ugin. They're gonna attack. Sacrifice Wastescape Battlemage. Yeah, sneak attack, definitely the nightmare card from our opponent. Next spell can't be countered. Oh, 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 oh. Oh, that's actually a really nice way of getting around Chalice of the Void, isn't it? That's pretty cool. It's a neat little trick. Our opponent's also gone up to 17, which is obviously an absolute beating. Okay, so they didn't have another Archon of Cruelty to literally kill us with. Ancient Tomb, the worst draw in our deck. Actually the worst draw in our deck. Opponent thinking for a very long time in my end step. I imagine they... Oh, no. I imagined they were going to have a Surveil land. But no, they already have it. Let's see what we get here. What we get killed by. Traxxer. Yeah, we're just going to get to see the top 10 cards. So, yeah, they are all in on these Archons, aren't they? Yeah, Traxxer, they're playing Emrakul's. So, yeah, it seems like our opponent is very, very, very all in on sneak attack and show and tell. They're very much not doing the spell pierce, wow. And the Wandering. Seems like they're very, very much not into just gonna concede. Seems like they're very much not into the whole omniscience combo type thing. They are just classic show and tell, just putting stuff into play and attacking with it. So I'm bringing in these cards, and I'm taking out these cards. I'm taking out some of the higher end stuff because we're versus combo, so we don't really need to push through that much. We're just going to kill our opponent with whatever cards we have. And I've taken out 2 petals just because even though we are versus combo and we don't want to be fast, we are also versus a Force of Will deck. And Lotus Petaling out something just for it to get Force of Willed doesn't feel fantastic. So this hand is honestly a little wimpy. It has a threat on 1, it has a Disruptor Flute, which is pretty nice, but 5 mana sources is a bit too much. The deck actually runs a lot of land, so we really, really don't want to get flooded. So I'm going to more. This hand is also a little bit stinky winky, honestly. Yeah, I think if either of these was a soul land, I would probably keep this, but I'm pretty comfortable just going to 5 here. And there we go. Cool. I will keep this hand. Now, I think we definitely keep the 2 soul lands and the Thought-Knot Seer. That is kind of a given. And we definitely keep the K command. Now the question is, which of these 3 do we keep? The Wasteland, the Linebreaker, or the Obligator? Probably not going to keep the Obligator. Yeah, definitely not going to keep the Obligator. And I think because we don't have a red source, I'm going to get rid of the Linebreaker. And I'm just going to try and Wasteland our opponent. Wasteland, Thought-Knot Seer, Kozilek's command to dig for something. That all seems a lot better than hoping we draw a red source and getting to attack them quicker. Okay, Petal, Ancient Tomb. Are they just going to have the turn 1 show and tell? They are. Alright, well, let's... I'm going to put a Thought-Knot Seer into play, which is a really good creature, don't get me wrong. Getting a free 0-mana Thought-Knot Seer, that is very nice. I have a feeling it's not going to be as good as what our opponent has, though. Let's take the other Atraxa, and our opponent's going to get to look at 10 cards. We have almost absolutely... Oh my god! Yeah, we have almost absolutely lost this game. What do they take? They take Sneak Attack, deals 10 cards, chooses Force of Will, Volt, Emrakul, and Sneak Attack. Okay, so after we deal with this Atraxa, our next port of call is going to be dealing with an Emrakul. So I could Wasteland our opponent, which is pretty nice, or I could K command for 2, trying to dig for Sire of Seven Deaths. Sire of Seven Deaths is probably what we want in this situation. Yeah, I think that sounds a lot better. I have a pretty strong feeling our opponent is going to Force of Will this, which is fine because at least we're doing it now means they need to make the decision of what to pitch to Force of Will before they draw their next card, which is good for us. It's like very minor. It doesn't really matter. They've like drawn a million cards, but it's like just a tiny, tiny little advantage. And yeah, they get rid of a Ponder. Yeah, like I said, I think our best possible draw is probably Sire of Seven Deaths, then Eye of Ugin. Problem is, we also need to get a colored source and a stock up's pretty nice. We also need to get a colored source and a Wastescape Battlemage in order to get rid of the... Oh no, they're just going to have it next turn anyway. Okay. I mean, hey, Cavern is a small part of one of the things we need, and they're just going to have enough mana to sneak attack in an Emrakul anyway. Alright. Show and tell, probably the nightmare matchup for Eldrazi, to be completely honest with you, in my experience. No, that's not strictly true. Lands is the nightmare matchup. Lands is a tough old goat. But yeah, Show and Tell is a combo deck that doesn't get affected by Chalice of the Void, and can also just like put creatures into play that are better than your Eldrazi creatures. And of course they have permission, they have, they have all of it. Okay, our opponent for some reason took 2 minutes to decide to play first. This hand seems good. This hand's alright. You get to go turn 1 at the Heralds the End, turn 2 uncounterable Linebreaker, turn 3 maybe we can play an absolutely huge Kozilek's command and try and find something else to do with all that. Okay, hopefully not another combo deck. Or if it is a combo deck, hopefully it's Storm. Although with this hand, no, we hope it's just straight up not combo at all. Okay, our opponent leads on Bloodstained Mire, which I'm going to guess probably means Storm of some kind. We're going to go and hit the Heralds the End, try and start the beat down. Cracking for a basic Swamp, and they're cycling Lorien for a basic Island. Interesting, and a Baleful Strix. Okay, Baleful Strix is actually kind of a problem. We are probably going to end up trading with that, with the Eldrazi Linebreaker. We could also remove it and try and dig for a bit more action. We are a bit flooded using the Eldrazi Temple. That is quite weak to a counter spell, like say I don't imagine maybe a Baleful Strix deck plays some number of days. I know lots of blue-black decks play 3 days. Or I could just get the Linebreaker, trade the Linebreaker for, 4 damage. Thing is, if my opponent has counter magic, we can't really get around it with this K command, and I really don't want this Baleful Strix to be in play if our plan is to get damage in. Okay, so let's scry X and exile target creature. Yeah, we need to get rid of this Baleful Strix because we're kind of flooded, so we need the few threats that we have to actually get in, and it prevents them from getting something like a Kaito into play next turn. I think it's a little bit late for Chalice of the Void, to be honest with you. We couldn't deploy it next turn because of these temples instead of Ancient Tombs, so I'm just going to bottom both of these. I don't think we can keep a land on top of the deck. And a Glaring Fleshraker. I mean, that's not bad. Yeah, that is a way of getting damage in past stuff like Baleful Strix, past Bowmasters and lots of little blockers that blue-black decks tend to put in front of you. Okay, Brainstorm, just an F6 here. Incredibly likely our opponent's going to have removal of some kind, which is kind of fine. We expect that to happen. Yeah, I might have said earlier, the one change I have made to this deck is playing these Abundant Countrysides. There wasn't really a reason I didn't play it at the ELM qualifier. I just didn't know that the card existed. Okay, so Baleful Strix. City of Traitors, definitely not what we're looking for here. I am gonna go ahead and trade with this Baleful Strix. I just really want to put up enough pressure that our opponent can't get a Kaito into play very easily. So I think I'm okay at this point with trading. Alright, give that haste. Just gonna F6, we don't have any other plays here. And yeah, our opponent, oh, okay. They decide to trade with the Linebreaker. They are not valuing their own life total, which is probably fine. I mean, we only hit them for, what, 7 there? 6? One of those two numbers. Our opponent has a Tamiyo. Tamiyo is pretty nice versus this 2/2, and they are going to flip the Tamiyo. Pretty good chance our opponent has a removal spell in hand, which would be kind of a nightmare just because our best possible draw is probably Linebreaker. No, actually, I tell a lie. Okay, they're going to Thoughtseize our Glaring Fleshraker. Our best possible draw is actually probably Sire of Seven Deaths. Okay, well, we get another Fleshraker. Now, question, do we want to hit our opponent for 1, or do we want to hit Tamiyo for 1? I think I want to hit Tamiyo for 1, just because it prevents them from minusing, getting back a Brainstorm or something, and then having more, and then keeping Tamiyo around. Yeah, so we'll just give Tamiyo a little love tap for 1, and then we'll use blue to make our Glaring Fleshraker uncounterable. And even though I would like to keep Fleshraker in hand, maybe to combo with something to get more of an advantage, I think I'm going to value playing to every possible out here, where I want to draw a 7-drop, ideally. That would be the best possible thing, because it would be uncounterable, and we would be, if it was one of those big 7-mana 6/6s that exile something, it would mean that we would get the trigger as well. Yeah, so they're just taking Tamiyo up. They have another Tamiyo. Really, really, really punished for not keeping that Chalice earlier. Maybe I should have. The thing is, it's like, I don't know. It's tough. Because I really wanted more threats. I really wanted more like stuff to do. So our opponent is playing a Kozilek's Command. Incredible. They're okay, so they are a Grixis deck with a basic mountain. Very, very, very greedy deck from our opponent here. But I'm kind of into it. I definitely didn't like these decks when they were popular, like 8 years ago. But I kind of respect someone playing it Lotus Petal. That is not what we wanted, is it? How valuable is making 1/1s with this Abundant Countryside? So I'm always going to play out this Lotus Petal. I think that always happens, no matter what. And our plan from here is going to be hope our opponent doesn't have another removal spell, although they could just minus Tamiyo and get back to Kozilek's command, which is kind of a fucking nightmare, isn't it? So I think I'm going to make the 1/1 now, even though 1/1s are absolutely horrible into Tamiyo. Yeah, it's the first time ever activating this card, and I'm going to sacrifice the Eldrazi spawn and keep the petal around. Wow, a 1/1, and we dealt 1 to our opponent with it. Incredible, incredible stuff. Yeah, as expected, they get back to Kozilek's command. I imagine they're going to make us discard a card with this. Or they could blow up the Lotus Petal for whatever that matters. Trying to think what our best possible draw is. I mean, it's probably Sire of Seven Deaths. It always is your best draw matchups like this. Yeah, they do decide to. Yeah, they do decide to destroy the artifact. I imagine they quite correctly put us on having lands in hand. That's pretty reasonable. Okay, then they're gonna get. Oh, that's actually. I guess that's neat. They're gonna get another Tamiyo. Okay, so what? Any of our haste creatures. So we have 3 Linebreakers and two of the other. Yeah, we have 3 Linebreakers. I'm guessing they have Fatal Push, so Linebreaker doesn't work. I mean, Thought-Knot Seer plays. Thought-Knot Seer is definitely a card with text. Let's use black this time. Our opponent could go fetch Fatal Push it now just to make sure they can get rid of it. Yeah, wow, Tamiyo plus Kozilek's command. That is kind of nice, isn't it? That is kind of that's a bit of me, that is. Okay, so Sheoldred's Edict is the only card that actually deals with this Thought-Knot Seer. Baleful Strix also kind of deals with the Thought-Knot Seer. Murktide Regent is about as good as dealing with the Thought-Knot Seer. That's tough. That's a good old hand, that is. That's a nice old hand. I think I'm going to get rid of the Sheoldred's Edict. I don't think any of those picks put us in a winning position. Best of a bad bunch there. Yeah, so they're gonna Bowmasters, kill the Shapeshifter token, and I imagine. Oh no, they actually don't put Murktide Regent into play, which is honestly kind of crazy because now we have Chalice of the Void. Chalice of the Void is a very, very funny card versus Murktide Regent. So what can we do about that? What can we do with this? One thing we could do is just put it on 1 and just hope that our opponent has 1-drops. They are playing a lot of 2-drops, but their 2-drops are in play, so that's less than ideal. I am just going to put this on 1. And I am actually going to play out the Abundant Countryside, getting rid of the City of Traitors, just because we have another land to play next turn, so it just ends up being kind of a wash and no reason to attack. Our opponent is going to get to activate Tamiyo next turn. Not this turn, but next turn. And they're going to draw half of their deck. I guess I should have blocked the Orcish Bowmasters. Would I have got blown out for that? No. I don't know. Oh, I guess I actually would have got blown out for that. So what they would have done is played the Orcish Bowmasters. Yeah, and then they would have minus Tamiyo and then got back the K command and then finished off the Thought-Knot Seer. Okay, but yeah, I imagine we're just going to see a Murktide here. There it is. So, big rips. Thought-Knot Seer doesn't actually change that much. Still, let's go ahead and put it into play. And we'll take the other Murktide. Technically, we could keep playing. However, our opponent is going to draw half their deck, which I think is going to be good enough. I think this is all good enough already. I don't really think they need to do that. They could probably just like uptick it some more and still maybe win, but that will probably end the game. So I'm going to take out Lotus Petals. I'm going to bring in some removal spells. On the play this time, very, very good hand if we had a Soul Land, but we don't, so let's mulligan. And yeah, this is what we want. I am going to get rid of the Eldrazi Temple. I think I just want to load up on threats. And I mean, if the last few games are anything to go by, the deck draws a lot of land. So now this is really the hands that you play this deck for, where you have Chalice on 1 and then just some big old threats. And our opponent decides that That requires a Force of Negation. Hilariously, they actually don't have a 1-drop after that lands, but still probably worth it. Let's go Thought-Knot Seer. And what you got over there? What do you have over there, opponent? Okay, I will snap take this Tamiyo. That is easy. Easy. Take this Tamiyo. Obviously, Lightning Bolt can kill a Glaring Fleshraker, but we have 2 of them, and it does not kill a Thought-Knot Seer. And yeah, that is. I'm guessing they just drew another land, something like that. Okay, on the draw, this hand is a little bit worse than it looks at first blush. We could turn 2 Thought-Knot Seer, and then we have Glaring Fleshraker K command on turn 3. We don't have a play on turn 1 is the problem, and we can't really make our creatures uncounterable with this Cavern of Souls, and it's going to be difficult to deploy this Wasteland. So, yeah, this hand looks really good. They kept a 7 is the thing. So I imagine they're going to have like 1-drop, 2-drop. Is this hand even good versus an opponent that is putting up that much pressure? I'm actually going to say okay, feel free to flame me in the comments. I'm mulliganing this hand. Go ahead. Put okay, yeah, fully punished. Okay, my bad, my fault. Oh yeah, there we go, sure. Okay, fully punished for mulliganing, but you know, I still feel I was correct to get rid of that hand. We'll get rid of a Wasteland, and our opponent isn't a Wasteland deck, are they? I don't think they are. I'm gonna get rid of this Abundant Countryside. If our opponent is a Wasteland deck, then sure, you got me. See, the thing is, our opponent kept a 7, so I think this hand is infinitely better than our 7 was versus 1-drop into, like, you know, Baleful Strix or whatever. Baleful Strix is still kind of a nightmare for us no matter what, but this hand can kill a Tamiyo. It can actually, like, start playing the game before turn 3 in earnest. Yeah, okay, so here we go. So hopefully this Dismember is going to work on the Tamiyo. Just trying to think whether we want to Dismember in our opponent's upkeep. Kind of down to Dismember in our opponent's upkeep. Although they could Brainstorm if we do that. So we have to decide whether we want to play around Brainstorm or Force of Negation. I personally want to play around Brainstorm a bit more, I think. Cool, and we kill Tamiyo. And they had Brainstorm. Awesome. And our opponent spends turn 2 just cantripping. Excellent. Which means we get to deploy this Linebreaker. Let's make Eldrazi uncounterable. So yeah, we are being fully rewarded for our mulligan there, I think. If we had kept that 7, our opponent would have an active Tamiyo. It would be ticking up. We wouldn't be able to kill it with the hand that we had previously. It would be a lot weaker to like removal spells and the like. And a Barrogoyf. Okay. So we're actually pretty good against Barrogoyf here. We could choose to K command for 3. I think that runs into Force of Will. We can probably pretty reasonably put our opponent on not having Force of Will before these Brainstorms and Ponders because they let Tamiyo die, but I am of the opinion that they probably have Force of Will now, so I'm just going to go ahead and bounce. I'm just going to go ahead and bounce this Barrogoyf and get in for a bunch of damage. Our opponent could have Snuff Out, which would be kind of the nightmare here, but I mean, Snuff Out's not even crazy good, to be completely honest with you. And with any luck, our opponent will redeploy the Barrogoyf and we'll get to just bounce it again. I guess they could have a Thoughtseize, but if they have Thoughtseize plus Barrogoyf, take our Wastescape Battlemage, we still have the K command, and then they would have to have a force for the K command. Okay, they're just gonna go ahead and bolt that. It's pretty good. Okay. I mean, we're just gonna. This is actually weirdly one of our better draws because it means that next turn we can also bounce the Barrogoyf and just get in. Yeah, this actually sets up lethal unless they have a removal spell, which is that's pretty likely. Pretty likely to have a removal spell, but here we are. Now, if they have Baleful Strix plus Barragoyf, we would want a coloured source, but I have a feeling that they just have a Lightning Bolt as they're tapping the red. Yep. Blood Moon. Okay, I mean, that is pretty fucking good against us, isn't it? Yeah, none of our spells are playable anymore. Wow. Wow. So we would need our basic wastes to actually deploy anything here. Yeah, this deck is uniquely weak to Blood Moon. Okay, Chalice of the Void. Ooh, Chalice of the Void. I mean, yeah, I guess our play is just although, oh, do I just want to try and draw weight? No, because they're going to gain a bunch of life anyway. I think our best play is probably just to play out the Chalice. Just Chalice on one, try and draw our wastes. Yeah, we really, really don't have another play from here. Damn, Blood Moon. Blood Moon, Kozilek's command. Not Kozilek's command, Kolaghan's command. Wow. Do we want to block this Barragoyf? So all that there is another Tameo for them to get back. And they actually can't play the Tameo. I think we're just going to take it because if they get back Tameo, they actually can't play it. So this gives us a creature that can attack. Yeah, and they hit nothing off of that. Draw off the clue and Kozilek's command. Oh. Oh my god, what a beating. Oh my god, the Dismember doesn't kill the fucking Paragon. Ah! So what is even our plan here? Thing is, if they Barragoyf and then take back the Tameo, there could actually be a window where no, because Barragoyf checks both graveyards, doesn't it? Yeah, I think that's us all wrapped up. Still, I'm happy that we mulliganed here. Uh, I think it I think it worked out a lot better than keeping that seven. I think if we kept that seven, we're just as weak. We're weaker to Barragoyf, and we're just as weak to Blood Moon. You could have made an argument that at some point during this game, I was meant to Kozilek's command Barragoyf. They actually turned out they didn't have a force. Um, so maybe you could say that that was a misplay, but I think regardless, we were a little bit cooked here. Yeah, and I'm just gonna save us some time and concede. Well played to our opponent. Very, I don't know if it's a good deck that they're playing, but very sweet deck. Definitely a bit of a throwback. Barragoyf's absolutely a huge upgrade to the like Grixis control, Grixis mid-range type archetype. All right, we get to be on the play for round three, and yep, there it is. Turn one, Chalice of the Void. Let's hope we can scum our opponent out of this game, and then maybe start developing like Linebreaker, maybe Wasteland our opponent. Having the second Eye of Ugin is a little bit of a problem, but yeah, there's definitely worse problems to have than having one of the best lands ever printed in the game of Magic, redundant copies of it. So Chalice resolves. Something that's actually quite nice that we can do next turn is because of this Lotus Petal, we can go Linebreaker Wasteland. Just hopefully really bury our opponent. Polluted Delta, I'm imagining that they're not going to crack that. And City of Traitors. I'm going to develop the Eye of Ugin. I don't want to show our opponent that we have the Wasteland. And I'm just going to put this Eldrazi Linebreaker into play. Our opponent surveils, bins of Thoughtseize. You don't want that anymore. I mean, even if you could play Thoughtseize, it wouldn't do anything because jokes on our opponent, all land. Okay, Wasteland from our opponent, jokes on you. I kept the second Eye of Ugin. And I think I just want to stop my opponent from playing Magic the Gathering, which is quite often what you do with this Eldrazi deck. That is quite often the plan, is just be the fun police. Nobody gets to have fun except me. I get to put my giant monsters into play. You don't get to do anything. Snow-covered swamp. And an It That Heralds the End. I am going to develop Eye of Ugin and play an It That Heralds the End and give it haste. And our opponent's had enough of that, which is fair enough. So playing versus blue-black, I imagine Dismember is going to be pretty good. I'm actually going to try bringing an Obligator versus what I imagine is going to be Barragoyfs. Eldrazi Obligator, still not good versus Blood Moon, unfortunately. For whatever that matters, I don't imagine our opponent this time will be playing Blood Moon, but because you do need the colorless in order to use it. Yeah, just gonna get rid of petals, and then so I've been trying this strategy is on the draw, even versus decks that Chalice of the Void is good against, you still take one out, especially if game one you really got them with Chalice of the Void. Just because your opponent's going to be keeping hands that are good against Chalice, your opponent's going to be sideboarding in a way that's good against Chalice. Chalice is one of those cards that the fact that it like causes such an adverse psychological effect on your opponent means that you can pretty reasonably put most opponents on playing around it a lot in games 2 and 3. I always say the second game 2 Chalice is like half as good as game 1 Chalice, you know. And this hand seems pretty good to me. We can kill a Tamiyo, we can dig for something else. We have threats, we have land. One of our land makes all our stuff uncounterable. Seems pretty nice. Nethergoyf. I will be dismembering that unless we get a better offer from here. Linebreaker would be nice. However, our opponent isn't locked under a Chalice, so it's pretty likely that they're going to have a removal spell of their own. I think I'm going to keep Kozilek's command here, just because it's such a nice combo with Fleshraker. Running out this Eldrazi Temple is a little bit stinky, maybe, but and I'm just going to dismember. I guess I dismember in their upkeep. Yeah, if our opponent has Wasteland here, I don't really think there's like a huge amount that we can do about it. But if they have, if they're gonna like ponder or brainstorm or anything, I want them to think that their counter spells are gonna be good. So that is why I'm gonna sandbag the Cavern, because we can be good against counter spells. Counter spells is something that we can beat with this hand. So I'm going to play to be good against counter spells instead of playing to be good against Wasteland, which really isn't something that we can beat with this hand. And like clockwork, they have a Wasteland, which means I think I'm going to play Wasteland of my own. Even if Wasteland did have a target, we wouldn't be Wastelanding here. So I think making them like fetch basics and stuff, which most opponents are going to do in the face of a Wasteland, is pretty good. So let's name Eldrazi. And I think, given the makeup of our hand, I think I am just going to cast a Wastescape Battlemage. Hope this recording works out. My PC is really chugging. This is, I think, a 6-year-old PC, and it wasn't particularly good when I bought it. Our opponent correctly choosing to not play around Wasteland, recognizing that we are not in a situation where we can Wasteland them from here. Just electing to get Surveil in, have better mana. They put a Moon Shadow into their graveyard. Okay, so they are a Moon Shadow deck. That's very cool. Thoughtseize is actually not the end of the world here. We have stuff that we can do, regardless of what this Thoughtseize takes. As long as we draw land, obviously. Yeah, Kozilek's command, definitely the smart pick there. Kozilek's command is the best card versus them, by far. But versus most decks, Kozilek's command is the best card. And then what are we going to get here? Like a Baleful Strix or something? Murktide Regent. million times worse. Although that is pretty nice. That is a pretty nice card. I mean, I say it's pretty nice. It's definitely hurts us. Play it. So what if we Eldrazi Linebreaker? We go down by 2. We go to 11. Our opponent can crack back for. Let's assume that they have ways of making this Nethergoyf at least 2 bigger. They crack back for 7. They kill us next turn. So is it better to just get Glaring Fleshraker into play and then hope that we can draw something, or is it better to hit our opponent for thing? So what we could do is we could Eldrazi Linebreaker, pump the Wastescape Battlemage, attack for 4. That would put our opponent to 12, unless they block. I want them to block. It's the critical, the very 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 critical thing. It is very important that our opponent blocks here. I think either way, let's get this Linebreaker into play. Snuff out. That definitely plays. I mean, we got our 4 damage. We didn't get to keep our guy or deal with the Murktide though, which is really that was really what we wanted out of the exchange. But hey, I'm not gonna turn my nose up at 4 damage. And we get Thoughtseized once again. Not a massive deal. Like, they're winning on board already. Our cards are going to be difficult to. It's going to be unlikely that we can deploy all of our cards anyway. So, and I think I have to block here. So 7 puts us to 4, which means, yeah, very very unfortunate to have to block here. Okay, what do you do? Nothing. The Heralds at the end does nothing. None of our cards do anything. Yeah, maybe I should have played the Wasteland out in order to beat the Wasteland. Maybe that would have worked out a little bit better for us, but I'm still reasonably happy with the line we took. I think versus Wasteland there anyway, we're not looking fantastic. I'm gonna bring back in a Chalice of the Void, and I'm gonna take out it that heralds the end. It does tend to just be a kind of a 1, like a 2/2, like a 1-drop versus matchups like this, and I really want all of my cards to be doing something more than just stats versus a removal deck. This hand is not keepable, unfortunately. It's too weak to a bunch of different things. This hand is also not keepable. City of Traitors really, really messing us up here. I do like having just one. Having just one City of Traitors is kind of nice for playing like turn 2 Thought-Knots and such, but as the first land that you play and the only land in your hand, I don't think you can keep it with City of Traitors. Okay, here we go. Let's keep. I'm going to put back a Sire because it's 7 mana, and I'm going to put back another Linebreaker, and let's turn 2 Linebreaker, turn 3 Thought-Knot Seer. Obviously, Wasteland is the nightmare. We're not looking too hot versus a Wasteland, but that's going to be true no matter which land we play. So, alright, blue to Delta. Thoughtseize, slightly punished for getting rid of the Linebreaker, but I think I still like having the Thought-Knot Seers. Devourer of Destiny, maybe the worst draw in our deck. Yeah, maybe I should have got rid of the Thought-Knot Seer instead of the Linebreaker. Kept the Linebreaker around so that we were a bit better versus Thoughtseize. And Nethergoyf. Another Nethergoyf? No, Moonshadow. Okay, Moonshadow only a 1/1 right now, but that will not be true forever. Alright, let's draw a land. Eldrazi Linebreaker. Could have been worse. Can't really play around anything on blocks. I think I have to just be attacking here. Wow, really, really, really punished for keeping this second Thought-Knot Seer, huh? I'm used to having so many lands. What can I say? That's sort of been the well, I guess it's been very feast or famine with lands this league. We've either had a million of them or we've had not enough. And a Barrogoyf. Absolute nightmare. Okay, Abundant Countryside. Let's make an uncounterable Thought-Knot Seer. Murktide Regent isn't even like that crazy. It becomes a 4/4 in this situation. Still bigger than Netherglyph though. Let's take it for Murktide. And now I am actually going to, I think I still pump the Linebreaker, and I think we still attack because we really need to leverage these stats versus this creature matchup. And yeah, hopefully our Thought-Knot Seer can block out this Netherglyph, and we're going to just have to kind of take our beats against the Baraglyph. See, I'm really hoping that they just swing out and we get to do something crazy like pumping Thought-Knot Seer. Although that doesn't even really, like, they can just chump that. But yeah, this Moonshadow's getting big. 4/4 already. I say already, it's taken like 2 turns, but just the Baraglyph attacking. Okay, would I rather let them have a card, or would I rather... okay, so we either let them have a card and we keep the Thought-Knot Seer, or, I mean, in theory, they could just whiff off of the Baraglyph and we could keep the Thought-Knot Seer around. I think I'd like that a little bit more. I think we're behind. I think I'm going to play to the out of getting lucky. And yeah, they hit Fatal Push, Wasteland. Okay, so yeah, Fatal Push, Wasteland. So they don't actually end up getting a creature out of that, which is nice for us. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Dismember. Which member? The thing is, this Moonshadow is just going to be huge no matter what, isn't it? Yeah, it's kind of just going to be massive no matter what. It's annoying that we can't Thought-Knot Seer and Dismember, because otherwise we would be kind of locked up, wouldn't we? So Dismember can either kill Baraglyph, or it can kill Moonshadow, or we could just get a Thought-Knot Seer into play. And then how much does Thought-Knot Seer attack for? Thought-Knot Seer would attack for 7. They can just take that. That's not a problem for them. And then they could swing back and force some blocks out of us. It's tough because I don't think Thought-Knot Seer actually is going to hit anything. So it's kind of just us giving our opponents a free card. So I think what we might do is just Dismember the Baraglyph and hope to draw a... Yeah, I'm just going to Dismember the Baraglyph in combat when our opponent attacks. And then hopefully we can... hopefully our opponent swings out, basically. Okay, our opponent is tapping some mana. What for? Why are you tapping mana? Unless they're just going to consign. Yeah, okay. Awesome. That is fine. I think never been happier I've never been happier that my opponent decided to consign there. That is really awesome actually for us. Yeah, so hopefully they swing out and we are going to end up taking 10 in total from the Dismember plus the Moonshadow. Moonshadow goes into the whatever. And then with any luck, we're going to be able to swing back and kill our opponent. Or they could just attack with Baraglyph, which would be the smart play, I think, to be honest with you, from our opponent. Yeah, just attack with Baraglyph. So I am going to go ahead and Dismember this. If they can somehow put like a Planeswalker or an artifact or an enchantment into their graveyard at instant speed, that would be pretty good, but they cannot. So yeah, these Netherglyphs are pretty big now. Kozilek's command. Awesome. Really good draw. I think I'm not going to wait for my opponent to draw any cards that could possibly counter this. I'm just going to... Ooh, do we actually want to... So I'm definitely going to exile this Moonshadow. I think that has to happen. And then the question is, do I scry? I think I do scry because that can scry me into land. Yeah, I think we have to scry into land. Temple and Fleshraker. So I don't think we get to keep the Fleshraker here. I think we have to keep Temple though, just because I want this Devourer of Destiny. Yeah, and I'm not going to attack. I want to double block one of these Nethergoyfs and Devourer of Destiny the other one. And our opponent is going to get to draw a card off of that, but they kind of, like, we have to just hope that they flood out. I'm thinking, just so you know, this is going to be slightly worse for the commentary, but I'm thinking of all the worst possible draws for us that our opponents could have, but I'm not going to say any of them. Because every time I say what the worst possible draw my opponent could have is, they seem to somehow always have it. I seem to be very good at manifestation, but somehow only for my opponents. Okay, so I imagine this means there's a Kaito in my future. So let's take this double block. Do we just get the double block? Okay. Actually, I don't know why my opponent decided to attack with the Netherglyph in that case. I guess it gets them one card deeper. Maybe they just didn't value having the giant 4/5 that was winning on board. But oh, it means that they get to flip Tamiyo. Wow. 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 That's a bit cool, isn't it? And they have another Tamiyo. Okay, lots of permanence for our opponent. Let's draw land. Dismember. Fucking hell. Okay. 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 Let's start off by playing a Thought-Knot Seer. And we get to take a Brainstorm. That's actually kind of nice, honestly. So let's give this Thought-Knot Seer haste. And I'm going to attack Tamiyo. Absolutely playing this game on the razor's edge. Okay, they decide to trade. Awesome. And what can they get back? They can get back a Consign to Memory. They can get back a Fatal Push. I imagine they will get back a Fatal Push. I'm going to dismember this Nethergoyf now. And they can escape it, but you know, they could escape it anyway. I think our out is for them to not get back a Consign to Memory and for us to draw land. Yep, Tamiyo is going to attack here. I mean, if they plan to crack the clue, that is not the end of the world for us, really. Wow, 3 Nethergoyfs and a Barrogoyf. And a Barrogoyf. Okay, let's draw a land. Kozilek's Command. Kozilek's Command also plays. Does Kozilek's Command just kill our opponent? Let's see, we would have 3, 4, 5, 6. No, it doesn't quite kill our opponent. We could. Okay, I'm just gonna try this. Exile target creature, and I'm gonna make spawn. So I create the spawn, exile the Barrogoyf. Yeah, I'm gonna make 4 spawn, and then I'm gonna give Eldrazi Linebreaker. So they let us go to. Yeah, okay. So this plays around Fatal Push. And we could put our opponent very, very low, but I think I value killing Tamiyo a bit more. Yeah, we could put our opponent to 2 here, but I think, yeah, I value just making sure that they can't rebuy a Fatal Push or something. Wow, what an absolute battle of a game. So they can attack and crack 2 clues, and that flips Tamiyo, but I don't really think that's going to be where our opponent wants to be from this situation. And we're pretty likely to be able to play this Devourer of Destiny next turn, which in theory gets rid of a blocker and lets us get in. Surveil land. They do not want a Force of Will. Reasonable. Very, very reasonable in the face of this Cavern of Souls. Cracking a clue, which means they don't have another Barragoyf. And nothing. Okay. And there we go. I think let's assume our opponent doesn't have anything. Exile Tamiyo will give the Devourer of Destiny plus plus 6? Let's see. That they could actually have Orcish Bowmasters, but if they do have Orcish Bowmasters, they get to just throw one thing in front of this Eldrazi Linebreaker anyway and survive, and we have Eldrazi spawn to like block with and stuff, so I think this is a fine attack into Bowmasters anyway. Petty Theft. Okay. I mean, I'll take having another Devourer of Destiny in our hand. That seems pretty good to me. That is pretty nice. Wow, absolute battle. Absolute battle of the game. Jesus. Opponent ponders. I mean, with this Devourer of Destiny, they would need like Barragoyf plus Consign to deal with the Devourer of Trigger, and even then they're not in like a fantastic spot, so could have like Damnation, something absolutely wild like that. Okay, another land. That is a fantastic sign for us. And they're fetching, and it was just thinning to draw a card. Okay, very, very reasonable thing to do in this situation, I think. And there we go. We got it. We're on the board. Oh my god, what a fantastic game 3. Oh my goodness. Yeah, well played to our opponent. That was an absolute battle. Damn. Okay, Genes from the future here. We ended up having a pretty tight game 1 on the draw versus Delver. They led on a Dragon's Rage Channeler. We attempted to get a turn on Eldrazi Linebreaker into play, which got dazed. We ended up trading Kozilek's commands for threats while wastelanding our opponent until eventually they had no board, and we were also top decking at 1 life because of this Ancient Tomb that had been ticking us down all game. I think I made a slight mistake by attacking with a hasted Glaring Fleshraker into a Vexing, whatever this new goblin thing is called, instead of just attacking with our trample creature. They ended up blocking, and we ended up dying eventually to Brainstorm into Ponder into Bolt. Really, really cool game 1. Very, very, very close. Okay, absolutely heater of a game 1 there. Well played to our opponent. That was very exciting. I'm going to take out 1 Lotus Petal for a Warping Wail. I don't really like bringing in the Dismembers versus Delver. I think quite often you just end up in a spot where it doesn't really do a whole lot. I'm also going to bring in the Wastescape Battlemage and take out a Lotus Petal. Yeah, Dismember just ends up kind of not doing what you want it to do in a lot of situations. Taking 4 damage is quite a lot. I'd love to play first. This hand will not do. Neither will this one. And yeah, I guess this will have to do it. So I think I get rid of probably a Linebreaker, and the problem is we're going to City of Traitors turn 1 and play the Chalice. I think we have to do that, even though our opponent probably has a Force or something, just because it's such high upside in the matchup. So I think it's between the Linebreaker and the Fleshraker. I'm going to get rid of the Linebreaker. Don't know if that's 100% correct, but it's like the most awkward card to play out with the way our lands are set up here. Okay, Chalice resolves. This is the other side of the like Chalice game 1, getting your opponent and forcing them to play differently. Not forcing them, but you know, making them more incentivized to play differently. Is that sometimes They don't play around Chalice. Oh, that's kind of nice. So I'm going to play this Cavern and get an uncounterable Fleshraker into play. Not that I would imagine our opponent has a counterspell right now, because they probably would have used it on the Chalice unless they have an Abrade or something, but even if they do have an Abrade, I think that's pretty good tempo for us. Now, frustratingly, our best draw, Kozilek's Command, isn't actually live right now because we would need to play the Eye of Ugin and then have another thing to do next turn. Okay, so it's using this Petty Theft our Fleshraker. I accept these terms. That means they're not petty thefting the Chalice of the Void, which means either they have a way of dealing with Chalice of the Void, so this Fleshraker is going to be counterable. But yeah, like I said, I don't think our opponent has a counterspell here. Hexing Squelcher. Wow. Wow, that is going to work, isn't it? Yeah, that is going to work. Wow. Wow, that's cool. I guess Chalice of the Void is a lot worse when you're playing against decks with a 2-drop that just kind of counters it. But I think our plan here is going to be make mana and then get a Sire of 7 Deaths into play. Sire of 7 Deaths is typically versus the like blue X decks that aren't some kind of combo a little bit unbeatable, especially if our opponent's removal spells are bolts and unholy heats and the like. Okay, so can't do anything about them getting through the Chalice. Wow. I can't even bring in like the Dismembers actually don't get any better versus Hexing Squelcher because I'm taking 6 if I want to kill a Hexing Squelcher. And yeah, Corey Steelcutter, they're just going to be putting the absolute beats on us from here, I think. No, okay, they have no 1-drop, which could not be a good thing, to be clear. Okay, so our out is to draw Soul Land, I think. Yeah, maybe it's possible they have a Corey Steelcutter plus. No, they had Ponder, unless they just drew that. But either way, we are going to be getting hit for some damage here. Hopefully our opponent doesn't have Wasteland of their own to put us behind absolutely immensely here. Okay, no Wasteland. Getting hit for 4, that is somewhat acceptable. Wow, Hexing Squelcher versus Chalice, that's nice. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We do not have the number after 6. It is entirely possible we could be dead right now. But if we're not dead, we get to get a Sire of 7 Deaths into play. Maybe, if we draw a land. Yeah, I mean, there it is. Wow, Hexing Squelcher, what a house. This match also reminds me, at the ELM qualifier, I played on stream 3 times. I will be Price of Progress. Yeah, okay. Yeah, all good. Well played to our opponent. That was a heater of a game 1. Not as exciting in game 2. I think we kind of just got absolutely steamrolled by this Hexing Squelcher card. Yeah, at the ELM qualifier, I played on stream 3 times. I'm probably going to do a video reacting to the stream games and just kind of going over the tournament itself. So if you want to see that and you're not put off by me getting absolutely kind of beaten up this league, feel free to subscribe, give me a like, tell me how much I've misplayed in this game and how I don't deserve to be going to Belgium in a few months. And yeah, stick around for me going over some of my stream games, because spoilers, I won all of them, and the match versus Delver was somewhat reminiscent of the game 1 we just played. Okay, the final round, and I am on the play. Lots of people drop when they are. I'll keep this. Lots of people drop when they're 1 and 3 or 0 and 3. I never do. Never, ever in leagues. The way I see it, so let's just get an Eldrazi Temple and the Heralds to the end out. The way I see it, when you go into that 5th round and you're 1 and 3, you are basically playing a money match where if you lose, you don't lose anything extra, but if you win, you get 50 play points, which is roughly $5, maybe a little bit less. And you know, I enjoy Magic. I think if you play it a lot and if you're competitive, you should enjoy Magic. And I will play a money match for where I could get $5, and if I lose, I've already spent the money. I've already entered. I'm already in the tournament. I think that's a bit of a no-brainer. I think that's a pretty good deal, you know. Fetch a basic plains for our opponent. Okay. Another big creature is, I mean, it's less than ideal, but with this Eye of Ugin and a bunch of soul lands, it could be a lot worse. And our opponent's just taking the womps here, so that's pretty good. And Sword Splashers. Okay, so they were waiting for like a bigger creature, like a Thought-Knot Seer or something like that. With Flooded Strand, I'm imagining my opponent's some kind of control deck, which is less than an ideal matchup for us, but I guess I shouldn't F6 because I could be holding up Kozilek's command for X equals 2, and I don't really feel like playing around Daze. I don't imagine my opponent will be a Daze deck off of basic plains turn 1, so I'm just going to get this Reality Smasher into play. They have to counter this. I mean, this is a guaranteed 2-for-1 either way versus 1 plains up. Basic Mountain. Back to basics. Okay. Hilariously, I can actually play out another Reality Smasher here. Back to basics does not affect Eye of Ugin. If they say like counter this, then have a removal spell, we're in a bit of trouble, but they don't. And another Reality Smasher gets there. Awesome. Beating a back to basics, Swords to Plowshares, just with playing big dudes, just playing some big old lads. Just playing some big old. I guess maybe Reality Smasher is not a lad. Maybe Reality Smasher is something else. I don't know. Not ready for me to say, is it? So versus this control deck, I'm going to bring out 2 Lotus Petals. Even though they are quite good versus back to basics, they still let us like play through that. But still, I assume that they're going to be some kind of Force of Will deck. Even though we didn't see it, I can pretty reasonably put them on having that. And I'm just going to bring in 2 action spells: a Warping Wail and a Wastescape Battlemage. Could bring in the Eldrazi Obligators just as another threat, another beater, but I don't really think that's what we're in for. So this hand is a lot of lands and no action. Let's get rid of it. This hand is not many lands, but quite a lot of action. Let's give it a try. Get rid of one of these Fleshrakers. We have a lot of them. Opponent leads on the island. Thought-Knot Seer, a very good card. Not exactly what we want from here, but that's okay. A lot of good draws. Mostly a soul land, honestly. Mostly a soul land would be pretty good. Our opponent deciding to ponder. I think we can pretty reasonably put our opponent on having consigned to memory if they are leading on island and then not playing the ponder and then Volking playing the ponder. So part of me wants to Wasteland our opponent here just so we don't get got by back to basics, but another part of me says that if they're playing Volk on turn 2, they might not have a back to basics. So I'm just gonna play a Fleshraker, and I imagine this gets consigned to memoried. Yep. But it means it means the consign isn't in the hand, because we can't beat the consign anyway, so we just have to kind of jam into it. Okay, Thundertrap Trainer. Our opponent is this kind of Jeskai control deck. I've played against this deck a few times. It feels very, very dressed down. Very small possibility they're playing some sort of Phyrexian Dreadnought strategy with dress downs. Dress down is also just kind of a fine enough card on its own. Caracas. So I'm just gonna Glaring Fleshraker that heralds the end. Try and put a bunch of material into play. Eye of Ugin plus Fleshraker is a very, very nice combo. It means we can like get lots of stuff. Oh, I think my computer's crapping out a little bit. Okay, they Force of Will the Fleshraker. So our consolation prize, we get in it that heralds the end. And what did they? Yeah, so they got rid of the dress down. So I imagine they don't have like a Phyrexian Dreadnought or something like that. Even if they do, Kozilek's command's a pretty reasonable answer to that. So they decide to Prismatic Ending and it heralds the end, which I will accept. I think that is I think that's not too bad for us. That is. And we can either hit the Heralds at the end, we can Thought-Knot Seer, or we can K command X equals 2. I kind of like K command X equals 2. If they have a counter spell, we get got anyway, and this lets us do more stuff. Scry's X, create spawns. Yeah, so there's a chance we could another K command. Hard to turn that down. Probably not right now though. I think that's for next turn. And I will keep another land. So I will Thought-Knot Seer, and I mean if they didn't have a counter spell for our Kozilek's command, I don't imagine they have a counter spell for Thought-Knot Seer. Could be wrong. Yeah, and this is going to be a Swords to Plowshares, which means that there are no unknowns. Really, really happy to take out that Flame of Anor. Flame of Anor with a wizard in play is very good. And I need to think, do I want to play this at the Heralds at the end? We know that we're drawing Kozilek's command. I think I just want the creature in play. It's like not particularly relevant, but it does block Thundertrap Trainer. Attacks into it pretty nicely. So Scalding Tarn and whatever this Teferi. Okay, deal on Teferi. And another Thundertrap Trainer. Wow. Pretty nice. So that gets a Ponder. We're going to get to take that with our Thought-Knot Seer. So let's just go ahead and Kozilek's command. Kozilek's command is such a crazy card. It does everything you could want. Sire of 7 Deaths. Sire of 7 Deaths. I'm not concerned about Cavern of Souls, just because our opponent's going to be pretty low on stuff to do. I would like to get this Sire of 7 Deaths into play. I don't think I've actually got to attack with a Sire of 7 Deaths this league. So Thought-Knot Seer, take your Ponder, and I will play the Heralds to the end. Getting rid of the Eldrazi spawn doesn't actually matter too much because we are going to get it's going to reduce the Sire of 7 Deaths by 1, which you wouldn't believe it, but actually does end up mattering some amount of the time. And Swords to Plowshares. Wow. Wowie. What a rip. And they have another spell? Oh my god. Prismatic Ending. Okay. Well, they're empty-handed. We're gonna have a unbeatable combat machine. Well, not unbeatable actually, because they're actually at quite high health. Which means 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, we actually only have 6 to activate Eye of Ugin with, but it means any land lets us go and fetch something with Eye of Ugin. Next turn, we're probably going to just go ahead and kill the Teferi. Next turn, even though it is a little bit lame to use our Sire of 7 Deaths to not punch them in the face. Yeah, so our whole deck is live from this spot. Every card in our deck does at least something. Apart from another Eye of Ugin, actually. We have 2 Eye of Ugins, and I would not like to draw either of them. Warping Wail. I'm going to probably just save that to counter some kind of sorcery. And yeah, let's just kill Teferi. I don't want to draw any more cards. So maybe if they play like a Ponder or a 4th Airlingus, or for some reason if they decide to play a Prismatic Ending, I don't know why they would from here, but yeah, and I'm just going to hold on to that. Chalice of the Void. Okay, let's go to punchies. I will play Chalice on 1. Chalice on 1 getting worse and worse as time goes on, unfortunately. Now that Consigned to Memory, I believe, can actually get around the triggers, spending a lot of mana. Okay, hardcast Force of Will. I accept. I think that is a perfectly reasonable way of spending your turn, opponent. And our opponent has another fetch land. Maybe Tilt playing it out. Maybe I don't think they've played any Surveil lands so far. Kozilek's command. Okay, this probably kills our opponent. I'm going to keep 1 coloured source available. Scry's X, draw a card. yeah, just absolutely, these Kozilek's commands have been kind of ridiculous versus our opponent here. X equals 6. We're looking for some kind of haste creature. Yep, and our opponent doesn't even want to let us look at the top of our deck. Okay, 2-3 overall. Like I said, I'll play out that last match for these sweet 50 play points. Every little helps. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope it wasn't too off-putting, me getting absolutely battered. Like I said, I'm going to do a video, sort of like a tournament report of the ELM qualifier. I'm probably going to play some other decks. I'll play a bit of Pauper. Probably play a bit of Modern. I'll test out some decks for Legacy. I'm reasonably sure that I'm going to play this at ELM, but I don't know. It's quite a few months away, so we'll see. Leave a comment. Let me know what you want to see me play next. If you link me a deck list, I will probably just go ahead and play it. I play a lot of Magic anyway. I'm actually about to take a shower and go head to FNM. So yeah, hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you for sticking around to the end.